So something that originally was voiced by many of the automotive journalists as well as car tubers was that Chevrolet has stated that they plan to ditch smartphone integration on all of their EV models starting in 2024. This means that there will be no Apple CarPlay, and evidently it also means that Android Auto will be removed as well. Chevy does plan to work with Google on the actual base interface for the infotainment systems on these models, which I guess would at least be some comfort to Android users out there, at least from a general standpoint. But outside of that, there isn't much more of a positive note on this, much of which is sourced from the ever unavoidable reasoning of money, noting that skipping smartphone integration improves cost efficiency and probably profitability. So,
yeah.
And I guess the question that I feel is the most prevalent is, how will this affect shoppers? I mean, for many of us, smartphone integration may not be the pinnacle reason we buy a specific car, but I feel like it's a reasonable factor into the research process.
Well, I've actually heard, I think it was Aaron who actually put out a tweet, I think it was last week, and he put out a statement in saying the only car that really you don't need, like for example Apple CarPlay, I know we're not necessarily talking about that, but was Tesla. And I think for Apple users, most people want there to be CarPlay integrated into a car in general. So I think to have that without the integration nowadays, it's kind of like almost losing Bluetooth in a car. It's almost an essential now. So
yeah, we've kind of become reliant upon that and just all the features that come along with, whatever apps are on both operating systems. Yeah, and I think he did mention that as well on another video where he said that it was Tesla, and I think he also mentioned Rivian. Had that integration of just their own software that works well enough that you don't really need a smartphone user interface on the infotainment systems. But that's just, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way because we know that Chevy plans to be fully EV by 2030.
Yeah.
And they only plan to have smartphone integrations on their gas-powered models, which pretty much means the axe is inevitably coming for CarPlay and Auto on all their models, post 2030. So yeah, it was really concerning. And then the other thing I was thinking of was, I suppose, the question that's kind of on the back burner in my head is, will other manufacturers across the globe consider following suit? And if so, which ones?
Yeah, just to kind of close up this topic, kind of answer that question, I don't think so. I think maybe this is just one of those plays that a company does. Maybe they don't think about it too much. Maybe they don't hear from their consumers a whole lot. But I'll tell you right now, majority of people are going to side with companies that actually use phone integration. I mean, that's the basic fact, I think. But yeah, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. It's basically like just losing a headphone jack. I mean, there's a lot of comparisons you could really do, but
there are.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like really Chevy had anything great going for them, in the beginning. In the modern era, at least, because they're not known for being, 100% reliable versus, the Japanese or even some European or German models.
That's true.
But so it's like I really don't find them to be much appealing, even more so after finding this out. So
yeah, for sure.
And I don't mean to knock any of you Chevy fans out there. I know there's quite a few, that's just my personal, experience and kind of ownership with cars and just all that entails that. So
yep. Well, a small piece of news that's a little late to the party took place back in mid-January when OnePlus submitted a trademark application for their Fold model, now known as the V Fold, which quite frankly sounds a bit more appealing than the Samsung Z series. That's just pure perspective on my part, though. And nevertheless, we should be seeing the OnePlus V Fold being announced at some point during the remaining calendar year. One thing I actually noticed, and this isn't like a huge crazy, theory or anything, but just the fact that the letter V looks like an actual fold, while Z looks like the trifold that Samsung is going to be releasing next year. So I feel like it's kind of almost poetic irony, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that, when I saw that article as well, I looked at it and I was thinking it's kind of it works because when you do have that the phone that's folding halfway, it does make the V shape.
Exactly.
Same thing with a flippable phone. I mean, you just rotate it horizontally and you fold it halfway and it makes another V. So it wasn't really much of a surprise personally. Yeah, like you were saying, I like the fact that it has the V. It just I don't know why that letter sounds a little bit
more smoother, I think, a little more professional.
Smooth. There's something, maybe I'm reading this too much, but maybe there's something a little more high quality about it, which is a little skeptical with OnePlus. But
yeah, that's true. It feels like more, what would you say, like leather inside of a car as opposed to just,
Z
seat
sounds
cushion.
cheap almost.
A little bit, yeah, it does. It's like that cheap plastic.
Not that has anything to do with Samsung, because they've come a long way with their foldables for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But so that's kind of what we have on the OnePlus series in regards to the Fold right now. So.
Yep. I'm just glad to see that just keeps on expanding. We're seeing more folds enter the market. So
we are
on the heels of OnePlus. This next item isn't really for any of us here in the States, but OnePlus has released a special edition of its OnePlus 11 that's been inspired by the planet Jupiter.
Yes.
And I wanted to bring it up because it actually looks like a pretty impressive design.
Yeah.
And I surprisingly would like it if they released this model in the US.
I know.
The model is called Jupiter Rock Edition. So, and it's really cool because when you rotate it, it actually has like unique flex. And when I say flex, I don't mean like muscle flex. I mean like sparkling flex.
Yeah.
And reminiscent. When the light hits it. Yes. And evidently every model is unique as far as where it hits it and the light. And so I think it's pretty cool. And I'm a little annoyed it didn't come here in the US. So it's a bummer.
Yeah, I know. When I saw that online, I was like, oh, yes, because I actually wanted to buy the OnePlus 11 to try it out, just because, the news that we've been hearing about how it's kind of sort of harkening back to the 7 Pro and how OnePlus, their peak originally was. But then when I saw the Jupiter, I was like, oh, my goodness, I really want this. And then I saw that it wasn't being sold in the US, and I was like, oh, my goodness, come on. Like, it just stinks. It looks so good.
It's just one of those things with OnePlus. They have so many models that, look pretty intriguing from, the eyes over here in America. And yet they're only limited to like India or the UK or China.
They shoot the arrow at the wrong target.
I feel like that's the case, yeah. But yeah, it houses 16 gigs of RAM paired with 512 storage. And converted from Chinese currency, it runs about $710 US.
Yeah.
But as I alluded to, it's only available in the Chinese market. And I wouldn't be surprised if you did see a couple tech tubers showcase this on their channel. So
yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think Marquez already.
Did he? I hadn't.
He might have
tried to see if I pull it up, but I didn't catch any of it. So.
It might be just something else, But yeah, that is something that I wish would be released here in the U.S. But
did you actually see? Speaking of Marquez, did you actually see his April Fool's video?
Oh, I've seen a couple of them. I don't think I saw this year's though. What was it?
It was basically a mid-season smartphone award.
Oh, okay. I did see the thumbnail for that. I didn't click on the video though.
It was pretty hilarious. Yeah. It caught me off guard because basically he kept on going back and giving Samsung, the award for pretty much every category. But yeah, we'll actually post that in the description below if you guys are interested. He did have some realistic picks just for mid-season. It was just something he threw together. It wasn't like, technically official. Because the fall upload is really where all his official awards go. And it's funny because actually manufacturers take his rating seriously. I think even OnePlus is one of them. So
yeah, they do actually. I won't go into too deep of this, but I think I was watching Marquez's video on the OnePlus 11, and he called OnePlus out back when they released the 10 and said, listen, this is not where you guys should be. And they took that to heart. Like, they were serious about it. They actually made an award for it.
Yes, they were like, this is what we had, and they were like using it as leverage to say, okay, we are done with this, and we want to move on to something that can actually be,
Yes, that people
noteworthy.
actually want. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So, now I realize this may not be extremely relevant to most of us, but it looks as though Nokia has plans to utilize SpaceX rockets in the process to bring 4G network to the moon. This has been in the works since 2020 when NASA selected them as the company to build the Lunar network to help with space-related communications, which also includes better connections with the actual electronics on the moon by enabling better video transfers from the rover systems, which include real-time streaming from the moon.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's amazing actually. Nokia boosts. They boost, yeah. Well, yeah, they are going to. Nokia boasts that its systems are built to withstand some rough and hardcore conditions, being that they will be on an environment a little bit different than the typical network that are based here on Earth.
That's for sure.
So, yeah, and I'm a big space guy, by the way, so to hear this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I had heard these rumors a little while back, I think, but just to hear it now officially coming out, that's pretty insane.
Yeah, I think I saw that as well. I think they're supposed to try to get it up there this fall or before the end of the year,
yes,
if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So
yeah,
that'll be kind of cool. Yeah, I agree with you. It's not really anything that any of us here, as far as consumers, can enjoy. But I mean, just to know that that's happening, and for any
to those who actually are up there and are on NASA bases, who actually get the video feeds and images. Some of them are not high quality, and that's just because of the bit rate that you aren't able to get as high of if you don't have a solid connection.
Right.
And even this may actually go forward into 5G network in the future, which would dramatically increase speeds. So that's, it's getting real here. I think.
Curious how that works, because 5G has a limitation as far as distance, or at least has a shorter distance compared to outgoing 4G.
Yeah, I wonder. I bet you probably could from the space station and then a couple of satellites that connect to each other.
Yep.
Yeah, so that probably might be. You're right. Yeah, but I mean, there's always some way there.
Yeah, there's always workarounds to kind of evolve that. Yep.
So
yeah, that's really cool. I'm kind of, we don't really get into some oddities as far as topics on this show, but I thought that was pretty interesting.
I know, right?
Not really a huge thing to hit the internet, but Samsung is giving iPhone users a chance to enjoy their Galaxy Android UI, or One UI,
yes,
with a test app that allows them various limited operations as though they're using a Galaxy device without even having to switch, from an iPhone to a Samsung.
Yeah.
I actually tested this out.
So did I.
I sent it to myself. You did?
Yep, I did. Yep.
I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, just
too.
kind of, fumbling around, just seeing what it's like to be on a Samsung device. Not that I haven't used them before, but it was pretty neat just to see kind of the things that you maybe didn't know, even from people who do use Samsung phones. I just thought it was cool and maybe even enticing iPhone users to be like, oh, well, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So who knows?
It's a good move, and the way that you actually do it, for those of you who are interested, you'll actually go to the site called is it Samsung for iOS? I think it is.
It's trygalaxy.com.
Trygalaxy.com. There we go. You'll copy the link, paste it into Safari, download it from there, saving your files as that. Galaxy for iOS, I think it is, and it'll put it as this application on your phone. You press it, and then you can actually utilize the UI that Samsung has. And it's, like JD said, it is pretty cool, and it's a good move on Samsung's part, I think, for people like he said, people are skeptical who, are real Apple enthusiasts, never really tried Samsung before.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, honestly. It was a little bit slower, but that's just because it was not a fully integrated app in and of itself. But
it was just shell-based.
Yep. Yeah, so.
Which they actually give you a QR code you can scan on the trygalaxy.com too.
Yes.
So if that's a concern, you can always do it that way as well.
Yep.
But I thought that was definitely worth noting, just because we don't really. I don't think I've actually ever seen any company do that before, where they kind of just throw their shell,
I don't think I have either.
User interface out there for people to try from other devices. So.
Yep. But with that, we'll actually go ahead and move on to deals here. So the first one we got is actually the Apple Watch Ultra. It hits an all-time low of $729 on Amazon. While normally having the standard price of $799, you are getting a $69 discount, which actually, ironically, JD ordered one before this deal came out.
Yeah, I went through Apple anyway, so I didn't go through Amazon.
Yeah. So there's a deal right there, guys. If you've been really wanting the Ultra, but it's been on that higher price hike there, then you guys can go ahead and get that now for a lower price.
Yeah. I love it so far. There's a couple of things I'll kind of notate actually towards the end of the program, but
okay,
it's really great. Battery life is amazing.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that.
I can put it through so many workouts and stuff like that. It's just it's uncomparable as far as any Apple Watch I've ever used. Which I know in comparison with other smartwatches that boast to last like a week or 2 weeks or a month, or even some of them like last a year, depending on what kind of features you want.
Yeah,
but I love it. There are actually a bit of a trade-in deal going on over at Google where specific models can grant you a free Pixel 7 or even a 7 Pro, depending on the model that you trade in with.
Okay, wow.
So, and that's with the addition of a Google Fi line. I will post the link in the description below. Of course, you guys can head over there if you are curious and wonder if your model is available on there. There's quite a few, so I won't list them all. But yeah, it's definitely something intriguing, and I felt like that was worth pointing out. In addition, we also do have the white Nintendo Switch. It's only $25 off, but it brings it down from $350 to $327, so just about there, 6% off.
Okay, cool.
Not like a whole lot, but you'll get some out of there as well. We do have some other deals down there for some SD cards and SSDs if they're still available when we upload this. So.
Yeah, those are pretty great trade-ins and some pretty great deals for a Switch. JD.
Riley.
Are you a big fan of the month of June?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I mean, I wouldn't say it's my favorite month, but I mean, it's a decent month.
Yeah, I mean, there's nicer weather, warmer evenings, campfires, s'mores, trips to the beach or lake for many of us.
True.
Well, for some of the tech enthusiasts, June is a pretty desirable time in the year, as that's undeniably when we see Apple showcase their next generation software upgrades across all of their devices.
Yes.
This being the year that we expect to see the reality headset announced, along with the software that's been dubbed XROS.
That's one of the worst names.
I know. I wasn't gonna say it again because we've harped on that way too much on this.
We have. I'll just skip it. I'm gonna hold my tongue for our listeners' sake.
Me too. A couple of brief things to note is that while we originally expected iOS 17 to be a maintenance upgrade, we now have rumors that there may be some key consumer desired features that could come along for the ride. Some have speculated possible simple updates to the icon designs or split view, of which I don't think we have had since iOS 9 or 7. I can't remember. It might have been...
we might have had some small icon changes, very subtle on 9 or somewhere around there. But yeah, the major ones were back on iOS 7.
Okay, that's what I figured.
Yep.
On the flip side, watchOS 10 is strongly expected to be a major upgrade since the Apple Watch first debuted a little over 8 years ago. And as we always know, whenever we hit 10 with Apple, they always do something radical in regards to either the software or hardware changes, like when they release a new device anyway. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty great year, I think, for WWDC, in my opinion. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I'm not... I'm kind of really. It's the unknown of the headset. It's not so much.
It's been that way for the last year. Yeah, so, I totally agree with you.
I'm not really a big headset person, but I am interested to see how Apple, goes about doing it, how it looks. Same. There's been some rumors as far as the price that it was $3,000. Well, now we're hearing it could be. Maybe there's another variant that's going to be $4,000. It's really hard to say at this point. But yeah. So,
do you remember when we actually thought of what this price was going to be for these headsets? I think we said it around like
2 episodes,
1,300, and then I think you said 1,800, and I think we are way off. Yeah, that's what you said.
I think we are. Yeah. I said 1,800. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I'm kind of scared now because
I know 4,000. That's like, wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a It's a lot.
So
But I guess you and I will only be able to test out the dummied down version that I guess we're expected to
we
get
will have
later
to,
on
yes.
in a few years.
Yep.
So, but a couple episodes back, we discussed the likelihood that Apple would alter the iconic mute switch in favor of a capacitive button.
Yes, we did.
And I voiced my concern that this decision seemed a bit uncharacteristic and kind of unpopular among the Apple faithful. Much of the concern was based on how the trillion-dollar company would implement this. Well, upon further rumors that have surfaced from notable sources as well as other publications, it now looks as though we will have a better idea of what's being planned for the 15th gen iPhone. The mute switch now seems to be replaced by some variant of the action button that we currently see on the Watch Ultra. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with this function, you can map the button to various commands. And according to Mac Rumors, there are some possibilities as to what we could potentially have aside from the obvious mute command. Some options include, do not disturb, light/dark mode, open control center, open camera, toggle the reachability command, Shazam, magnifier, among many others. I won't go into the whole list of them all. You can obviously see that on the link below.
Oh, yeah. And then maybe finally double click it and head to the camera. That'd be nice. Well, you said click it. I think for it to be used to, like, you just click it once and then it does it. I'm saying, like, you could have a double feature where you click it once, it does one thing, and then you double click it, it does another thing.
Yeah, that could be. I'll kind of break that down. It all seems cool, obviously, and if you haven't yet used the Watch Ultra, you probably welcome this implementation. However, I have and am, as Riley said, I'm currently testing out the Watch Ultra, and on more than one occasion, I have accidentally started a workout or marked my workout segment multiple times because the action button is a little too easy to activate.
Ooh.
So I still have my concerns and reservations about this change, but I am hoping that Apple has considered this and has found some other ways to activate the action button.
That's interesting.
I kind of like what you're saying, where one click, double click, because honestly they do that with the power button where you double click the power button and it takes you right to Apple Pay.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, I could see that being it. And then you also have it where you hold the action button, and that's, in my case, I have it mapped to actually mark the segment for my workout, and you can do other stuff with it too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm not really a fan of that because you could easily accidentally, set your phone off mute, if you're in a meeting or something, or at church, or heaven forbid, a funeral. So that's kind of where I feel about it. We don't really know for sure. These are purely just rumors, although it does look like this itself will actually happen. We'll just have to see how it's designed.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I think it's like you said, it's a matter of how they approach everything that Apple does. Whenever they do something drastic, maybe sometimes irrational, it really depends on how they approach it, and that's either going to make or break the consumer base. There's a lot of examples that I could mention that when they did something like, I don't know, remove the home button or remove the headphone jack or, a whole bunch of slew of things that obviously people are okay with that now, but at the time it was like, wow, you really did that.
I mean, there's some drawbacks that they've, done as far as design. I mean, if you think about the touch bar on the MacBook, you think about the, butterfly keyboard, there's just so many simple things that they've adjusted that has actually been detrimental to their products. And they've had to,
that's true.
I guess, under the table admit that they were wrong by going, back to their original design. So, I agree with you. It makes me more and more interested in the 15, but only in sense to see it's the same thing how the headset is. I'm kind of interested to see how this looks.
Exactly.
I'm more so waiting for the Ultra next year. So, but it's all worth noting that Apple will be utilizing a new ultra low energy chip that allows both the basic capacitive buttons as well as the action button to be used when the phone's battery has been emptied or the phone has been powered off. So it's kind of interesting to see that because, I'd kind of been concerned about that too, because when you switch it over capacitive, there's no physicality to it. So, like, what do you do when it is powered off? So, but it sounds like they've kind of thought about this.
Right. That's kind of concerns I was having. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And we've also heard rumors that Apple plans to make the capacitive buttons operable when a phone case is mounted on the chassis or even when gloves are used.
Yes, I saw that
they're
too.
really thinking this. Yeah, they're really going through and just kind of figuring out all of, well, I guess like we said, drawbacks that could possibly be introduced from the consumer.
Yeah, and those were the type of concerns I was having the whole time. How is this going to work when you have gloves on? How is this going to work when the power's off? But I'm glad that they're actually making sure and they're leaving no stones unturned with this. They want to make sure that this type of thing, like, because once you get past this, that means I feel like Apple has a little bit more of a comfortable setting with regards to, for example, the under display Face ID. You know, when you start making those progressions, and when you start thinking about the causal effects that those have on users, that means that they're really taking a careful look with what they're implementing. So yeah, I'm all for that. That was my main thing, and I'm glad that they've actually sorted that, or will be sorting that out. So
yeah, same here. I was a little surprised I was actually surprised to see them do this.
Yeah, me too.
Because often they just jump right into stuff. They
don't think about it.
I don't know. They're not as bad as Samsung, and that's no con on Samsung. Samsung's just more innovative and gimmicky. That's just the way they've always been, and I think it's actually in many cases worked to their advantage. Mm-hmm. But with Apple, you know, if they don't consider everything, then yeah, it's one of those, you know, dumb designs that ends up just costing them millions of dollars. So, which doesn't really hurt a $1 trillion company, but hey.
No, yeah.
It is just another reminder, though, that the base models will still sport the conventional buttons that we currently see on all the 14s. Only the 15 Pros will receive the capacitive and action button.
Okay.
So, yep. So, but with that, we will go ahead and close out this week's episode. We certainly appreciate you guys checking in with us again on all the topics we covered. If you have any questions or any comments, please post them down below in YouTube, and we will be back next week for more tech news and rumors. This is JD and Riley signing off.
Peace out.